Fuksa. I hope you guys are having a fantastic start to your week. And I have the honor today to bring to you an entrepreneur that has, really figured out how, she saw something she really wanted to do and she figured out how to make it happen. And she happens to work in an industry that has a lot of challenging things that have gone on over the last many years. And she's navigated through all those difficult things and still come out to being very successful. So I really wanted to share her story with you today. I've actually known Michelle for a really long time, and I just can't wait for you guys to hear from her about her, her entrepreneurial experience. So Michelle, thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome.
So this is Michelle Woods, and she owns Interstate Title. And Michelle, tell us a little bit about you, like where you come from, what's, how you got to where you are now, what that story sort of looks like, a little bit about you.
Well, I've lived in Maryland pretty much my whole life. My sister and I were actually born overseas because our dad was military when we were kids. But Maryland's been home in all our memorable years. Southern Maryland since like I was 5. So I consider myself a Southern Marylander. Gosh, that's a hard question. So I've been in real estate for almost 25 years. And before that, I was in a type of financing, nothing super exciting, but always worked with numbers and people and their money.
And so tell us a little bit about your journey getting into the entrepreneurial world. Tell us tell us a little bit about what kind of business you have, what made you think that was a good step for you, why'd you do it when you did, and how long have you been doing it?
Well, I've been doing this forever, since Jesus roamed the earth, pretty much in the mid-90s, back when we used hammer and chisel. We didn't have computers. We had to use our pen. A long time ago. Honestly, I fell into it. Somebody decided to hire me against the better judgment of her business owner, because I was the daughter of a realtor or daughter-in-law. And I think to her benefit, she hired me, and I became the cool chick I am today. I think I started on my own because I was, not even thinking. I decided to open my own firm in the midst of the worst market downturn in history, next to the Great Depression. I'm not sure what crack I was smoking at the moment, but there we go. And recently I decided to expand and open another office right before the world crumbled into the abyss over a virus. So I have bad timing. So you should always call me first before making decisions, because if I'm making a big one, it's probably not the time.
Yeah, but you know what? With all of that being said, I mean, that's funny that you say that, because we all make choices and you just never know what's going to happen. But with all that being said, I mean, how long have you had your own firm? You've had it quite some time, and it's lasted through a lot of this stuff.
Yes, it'll be 10 years next month.
Wow, that's super exciting. So, when you guys listen to this story, you have a tendency to think, oh my gosh, she has gone through all of these crazy things, but she's survived and is very successful. As a matter of fact, Michelle, first tell everybody a little bit about what your company does, because a lot of people just don't understand that.
My family doesn't always understand what I do for a living either. My husband says I move paper around my desk and just yell at people all day. It's what I do for a living. And I mean, we've been married forever.
You're not yelling at him then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we do the legal part in between the realtors and the lenders. So it's the maneuvering of the paperwork, making sure title is good and clean, dealing with any outstanding issues that may be sitting there. And in this day and age, we really help guide the realtors and lenders the best way we can to get problems to the table and make sure nobody's going to go to court, nobody's going to get sued, and above all else, nobody's going to jail.
Very important part.
Yes. So sure. We do that legal paperwork. I was told by a professor, we're the closest you can get to practicing law without a law degree.
Interesting. So last week we spoke to somebody who is a lawyer who does closings as well. And, she explained a little bit about the legal side of it. But so when you say that, and so you're doing the closing, but you're also making sure that problems are resolved. And when you say that you make sure the title's clear, what does that mean? What are you actually doing?
So I always joke and tell my new employees that we're lie detectors. We're determining if somebody's telling us the truth. Sometimes people don't admit something to be nefarious. It's just that they forgot. So we're making sure that they're getting all their debts paid that are in connection with the property, secured stuff or lawsuits, determining if it even applies. Did it expire by statute? Did they bankrupt? So we're kind of maneuvering through everything out there in the public record to see what actually applies to our particular piece of property.
Ah, interesting. Okay. So when somebody buys a house and they are told that they can pick their title company, it's important to know who you're working with because, you obviously you got to be pretty smart navigating through all of these things to do that. So do you have to have some type of a license, or are there requirements that make you know what you're doing?
Yes, you have to be licensed through the state of Maryland, through the Maryland Insurance Administration. In this day and age, you can take a pre-licensing class to do that. Back in the day, you had to do an apprenticeship for 3 years. They didn't have pre-licensing, back when the hammer and chisel was around.
Yep. I understand that. So you've been doing this for about 10 years. So tell us a little bit about, from the entrepreneurial side and less of the business side. Like, obviously you made a decision to open your own business. Now you have employees that are you're responsible for, particularly in what's going on right now. So tell us a little bit about the entrepreneurial side of that. Like what causes you to make decisions to do things certain ways, and maybe look back on them and make adjustments, or navigating through some of the craziness?
That's an excellent question, because when it came up through this, you could learn how to be a processor and then a manager and then a manager of multiple locations and multiple people. But when you decide to leave, there's nobody really there to teach you how to be the owner. And you kind of work in your business for a long time before you work on your business. I know I say a lot of I'm sorry, Facebook people.
Didn't even notice. Go ahead.
So when you look out at the landscape and you're trying to determine, without that crystal ball that nobody has, how the market's going to shift, if it's going to shift, you're kind of just trying to sit back and watch and kind of interpret how things might go. And then right now we sit in the middle of, do you go for the payroll protection stuff? We were just talking about it this morning. Am I going to need it? Am I not going to need it? I don't know at the moment what we're going to do or how we're going to do it. We've been doing pretty well so far, but there's going to be a lull in our market. There's just no way there's not going to be. If there isn't, I'll be shocked and awed, pleasantly shocked and awed.
Yeah.
But until then, I don't know. You just kind of sit back and do the best you can. I used to say that I felt everybody in my industry was created fairly equal. And as I've moved through this, I'm learning that we're not really created as equal as I thought we were.
It's really interesting how you brought up the working. This is a real big key in an entrepreneurial side of your life, is when you're doing something you really like to do and you transition into owning a business or running a business that is related to that, you don't understand. Sometimes people don't understand, go into it with all the knowledge of that step, that now you have to actually be an owner and run the business mechanics as opposed to doing the thing that you really love to do. So and I really like that you brought that up, because we haven't talked about that with anybody yet, but that's so key, because so many people don't realize that shift, right? And understanding that there's a whole lot of different responsibilities that may not really be the things that you really like to do in the first place. So how do you navigate that and balance that with doing what you love to do, and then balance it with having to take care of all of those extra things?
Well, I can tell any business owner or somebody who plans to be one out there that you will work harder than anybody else.
Always.
Sorry, I'm a jokester. I've had people come to me and say, oh, well, I'm going to manage this and I'm going to delegate it so I can do this. I'm like, okay, you tell me how that turns out for you, because it's not going to turn out the way you think. Because at the end of the day, I had somebody recently comment to me, How are you even essential? You just do title and settlement. You should be home. Okay. However, I'm responsible for the paychecks of every person in my office. That's my responsibility. I pay my bills and I pay their bills. So I have to do everything I can to keep my business moving. And, some are like, you should work from home then. Doing this at home, it's not the kind of business. We're not just shuffling this here and shuffling that there. And then they want to do things remotely. That's great, but the software is not available to us. There's a couple month backup. So by the time we have a ability to do it, this will all be over and we'll have to wait out the regular law anyways. So an entrepreneur or the business owner really has to, you got to just make the best maneuvers you can based on your business. And no two businesses are created the same, even in the same industry.
Very true. Very true. So do you find that, when you talk about delegating things out, I do think there's some validity in the fact that knowing what your strong suits are and knowing what you need to delegate out, because I do feel like there's some things that we know we're not good at, and so maybe, having that accountant or having that, obviously if you need legal work, you may delegate out to an attorney, but even if you have somebody, if you're just not a skilled writer, or maybe you don't do payroll, it's not your thing doing the meticulous stuff. So that it's okay. I understand you to say you're certainly going to work harder doing all of these things yourself, because now you're going to do what you love and set out to do, but you have to do all of these other pieces to run your business. But it is okay if you can afford it, obviously, and if it's really something that slows you down or gets in your way, to delegate some of that stuff out.
Well, I'm admittedly the world's worst bookkeeper. Don't ask me to balance an account. I can balance a multi-million-dollar spreadsheet for settlement, but the books and paying the bills, I knew that there were some things I just needed to hire somebody else to do. I'm a good problem solver. I'd rather work my way through the inner workings of the file, show other people how to do it. But there's some things I know I just don't have a talent for, and I don't even want to do them. So when you first start, a lot of times you can't delegate with so much because you're a startup. You are your business. You are the money you make, and you can't necessarily afford somebody to do that. I was very fortunate in that my sister wasn't working at the time, and she's great at books. Just for Facebook land, I'm good at what I do, but I don't like doing the books. All those payroll forms, I don't like forms, and the QuickBooks system and I don't get along. I'd rather just handwrite the check. I know it's funny. You guys probably think I'm the world's worst business owner.
Fact. I agree. I agree.
I have an accountant and somebody else to do that kind of stuff, so I can focus on the things that make me money, which is the personal relationship between myself, the clients, and the agents and the lenders, because we're the ones getting things to the table and figuring out where that middle ground lies when we have a problem, which is more often than not lately. Very rarely do I feel like we have a vanilla real estate deal that doesn't have some drama wrapped up in it. Mm-hmm. But you do have to learn to delegate, which is very hard. I'm very controlling at times, but I've had to learn to let go of stuff and just trust it to be okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So tell us, and I love this line of thought, because so many people who take the leap to do that are very A personality people who are going to take that leap to open that business to do that, and letting go of things now because it's their business and they've got to make sure everything goes correctly is not an easy thing to do. So I appreciate you sharing that, because I think that that's a really important part of understanding ownership. Whether you hire somebody to do it, you have a family member who helps you, or you delegate out in another fashion, it is very important to recognize the things that are not your forte, or definitely not, you're not going to be successful. If you need to do the books and it takes you 5 hours to do payroll when it would take somebody else half an hour, then it's not a good use of your time, and it's smart to understand that. So I appreciate you bringing that up. So tell us a little bit about Michelle. Like when you work in your business, and I ask people this all the time, but there's, when I ask people about their superpower, I think some people say, well, I'm really good at this. And I think that's really important. And I want to know that. But I think it's a twofold answer. So I want to know, well, you all want to know, like, what do you see as what I mean, because let's face it, there's thousands of title companies and even more law offices that do real estate. So what is it that makes Michelle super different? Number one. And number two, what is the thing that is about your business that just gets you so excited that like your hair on your arm stands up or your hair is on fire?
After 25 years.
Right? We all have that. Oh my God, I love doing this. It makes me feel so good when this happens. So tell us those two things.
Honestly, I love seeing a complicated closing go to the table. About a year ago, or maybe a year and a half ago now, we ran into a super complicated sale. It was just a lot, but it had a mile of problems that I won't get into because people are not going to understand and it doesn't matter. But it took us 6 to 8 months to fix it. I wasn't even sure if it was ever going to get fixed. So it wasn't anything I made a lot of money on, but when it got to the table, I was very excited for those families that we fixed the problem for one group and the other group got to sell the property. And the owner had passed in the interim, which was sad, but his widow did get to have that money so that it helped her upon his passing. So that I love just picking apart and fixing a problem. So I would say, what is that noise? Do you hear that?
I don't know.
It might be just on my end. We have people drive by all the time, so it's probably something outside. So I would say communication and problem solving are probably my superpower. I know a lot of people have like the pizza trackers and you communicate. The agent has to log on and communicate inwards. I don't do that. I make my staff communicate outwards. So we have a series of update emails to keep the realtors in the loop to let them know where things stand. So if their lender says, oh, I didn't get this, they know that we did do it. We might just have to resend it. Things get lost in email land. Mm-hmm. And then just being able to look at a file differently. I used to really irritate some of my coworkers and I just told them, I think things differently through my head. My head doesn't work like normal people.
That's good. So for you guys are excellent at communication and obviously the problem solving, you sticking into it. And it makes you feel really good to be able to resolve those really difficult deals because obviously you're working through that and the end result when it's completed will be, helping someone out of a difficult situation. So you're willing to take care of that. And that you see as your business superpower. For you feeling really good about something, it's in that same area. Also your ability to problem solve and that success of getting that done and helping people, but that communication you feel like is a super good power of you guys too.
Communication is key above everything else. We want to stick, and in my opinion isn't always the most popular about this. We keep letting artificial intelligence creep its way into our life. And we're like, this is going to take over and that's going to take over. That's a load of crap. I can tell any business owner out there, keep that personal connection going because ultimately at the end of the day, that person wants to know. I mean, I'll give you all my Amazon story. So I needed to come up with a gift basket for something, a nice one. So I decided to do a crab pot and all the Old Bay themed stuff. And I needed crab knockers out of season or crab hammers for anybody not from around here. So, I decided I'd order those on Amazon. They came and they're like a third of the size of a real crab hammer. I don't know what crab you were busting apart with those crab hammers. They got to
if somebody's listening to this that is not from Maryland, they're really, or even the Middle East Coast, you're not going to understand this, but it's okay. Go ahead, Michelle.
I don't know what crab leg you were breaking apart. And they said crab and lobster hammers. I know not one lobster you were going to take apart with this little bitty hammer. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And people think that we're going to shift and buy and sell our homes on Amazon and online and use blockchain to move things along. So when it gets messed up, who are you going to call? You can call Jeff Bezos because your house isn't what I wasn't going to call him about my crab hammers. You're not just going to be able to do that. I don't know if you remember, because for those who don't know, I used to work for Connie. years ago, back in the day, market's like crazy and hot. And this man signed a contract on a house with his wife not having seen it. $10,000 deposit. And this is why I remember it, because the deposit was so large. And his wife finally got to see the house. Next thing I know, they're in closing. And he's like, what can I do to get out of this? Because my wife hates this house. Hates with a capital H. The man walked away from his 10 grand. The poor seller's like, what do I do? I'm like, take the 10 grand, pay your payments, and resell your house. But his wife bought something sight unseen. And now, because of our virus problem, we're promoting this virtual online tours of homes. I don't know about anybody else, but I got to go in there and lay down in the floor and see how much room I really have. And will all my hoard of crap I've accumulated actually fit into my house? I mean, it's very deceiving on a video. I mean, and come on, people out there, how many times have you looked on MLS and the house looks great and you roll up in there and you're pretty sure that the it clown lives in the basement and some cootie just jumped on you?
Well, particularly now, there's some cootie that's somewhere. Yes. It's going to get you for sure. For sure. Well, that's, and I mean, it's really an interesting concept, because I think there's definitely two schools of thought about this. I mean, everybody's trying to get everything online now because, I do think that our landscape of everything that we do after this virus is going to change a little bit. Hence, like, look at the amazing way we're all able to connect with, through videos and through doing live and through Zooms and all these things. And gosh, I wish I owned stock in Zoom before this happened, but, there are going to be changes, but I hear what you're saying, because your particular industry is one of those industries where a lot of people do need to touch and feel at things and need to see things. So I think pieces of it can maybe, be a little more streamlined, but what you came back to, and what I like to circle back around is the relationship side of building relationships with people. And I talk about this in business all the time, because, when we're talking about entrepreneurial things and you're talking about how you're going to create an information stream to people that you want to have as customers, the way you create that information stream is to share information about things they don't understand that you know a lot about. And that is doing exactly what you're talking about, Michelle, which is building that relationship. People want to work with people that they know or that they think they know because they're having conversations with. And the more you build that relationship, the stronger opportunity you're going to have to be able to work with that person. And in your industry, repetitively, not just the customers buying or selling, but also the realtors and the lenders, building that relationship with them. And that's what it sounds like you're doing and you feel very strongly about.
Yeah, I think we're relational people in general. I can certainly sit at home by myself at night and not enjoy the company of another human being and have some quiet downtime. But at the end of the day, there's certain things you'll buy online and there's certain things you won't, because you do want to go in and feel how that pillow or comforter at the Bed Bath & Beyond feels, or you want to see how big that crab pot is, or just a variety of things you will go to the store and actually purchase, because you don't want to be deceived about what you're getting. I've certainly ordered a number of things online that I thought I was getting one thing and not really got what I wanted.
So tell us, I love your way of explaining stuff, but so tell us, I just had a crash of where I was gonna go with that. Tell us how you share information about your business, not necessarily marketing, but how do you share information about your business, your industry, with people that have no idea what you do and what they should expect from your company?
Well, nobody should ever take, marketing advice from me, because I'm probably the world's worst marketer. For me, I want to prove to you what I did. I did a good job. I showed you what I could do. The proof is in the pudding. I want to earn your respect and your business. So, and in my industry, aside from having to deal with a buyer and seller, I'm usually speaking directly to other professionals who know at least some about what I'm doing. Now, in our little trifecta, the lenders know their job, the realtors know their job, and the title companies really have to kind of know a little bit of everybody's job, because we got to sit there and explain everything, like the lending paperwork and how contractually this money moved to here.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that our part of it, it's complicated. The home inspector, you know what he does. The termite guy, you know what he does. The lender guy gives you the money, and the realtor helps you find your house based on your criteria. And we're just like a little weird anomaly that sits in the middle somewhere. And it is a really difficult thing to explain. And it usually takes a lengthy amount of time and usually a long-standing relationship. I mean, honestly, my family doesn't even always, and two of my family members work for me, so now they understand, but the rest of my collective family doesn't really quite get the enormity and the stress and pressure that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't help figure something out, that house may not go to closing, and that family is expecting to move, and they have all their stuff loaded on a truck. What are they going to do? Live in the back of their U-Haul?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Very well said. Very well said. So two additional things I wanted to ask you. Number one, what is the number one most common question that people ask you about what you do?
That's a great question. Usually it's not that it's super common, but it's more of the most difficult question is actually about the title insurances that we issue, because they don't really understand that we're technically insurance agents at the core of it all. Okay. You're used to your car insurance and you're used to your homeowner's insurance and other kinds of insurances, and not what ours does. And people in this day and age, in an effort to save money, sometimes want to choose to decline those owner's policies. And if there's anything I could tell folks in this day and age, I'd like to think I'm perfect at what I do, but I'm not. The land records aren't perfect. People before me aren't perfect. We're imperfect people. So those policies protect you from my mistakes. I mean, you could sue me if you want to. That's great. But you can only get what I got to give. And if you have a major problem, you really need to know that something's there behind you to help you out with that. So I really take a long time to really encourage folks to understand what that really means. Even I've gotten most of my investors by it now. I'm like, I'm not a perfect woman. You need to not trust that. I know you love me, but I'm not perfect.
Nice, nice. That's interesting, because I think that that's a piece of the puzzle in what you work in that people have no idea that what that even means, what that conversation's about. So taking the time to explain that's really important, and that's a great point for you to give us about. So I like to ask this question because I just think it's kind of neat to hear what different people have a different way of explaining their business. So if you're stuck in an elevator with 3 other people and it stops, and you just got to make conversation, or you're stuck in the house with 3 other people right now, who knows? So, and you go around the elevator and you're, asking each other what you do for a living, what would you say in 10 words or less?
Well, after I have a mega meltdown, because I'm actually afraid of elevators. Sometimes they bounce. That freaks me out. We could plummet to the ground.
We all have our things. I get it.
You have to sit and suck my thumb in the corner for a few minutes and pray that somebody opens it.
What visual?
How do I tell them what I do? I'm usually basic unless they start asking me more questions. I just tell them we do the legal paperwork portion of the real estate transaction. Most people assume that means I'm a real estate agent. Sometimes I go with it. It depends on how long I might be stuck in that elevator. I might have to distract myself.
Exactly. If you're stuck in the elevator, you need to keep talking, keep it going, so you don't have time to think about it.
Exactly. If I'm stuck in the house, I'll be like, yo, let's go outside.
That's really funny. So you said earlier that, and you know what, having something very general where somebody asks another question is good, because obviously the more you can get them to engage with you, more opportunity you have to earn their trust and build a relationship. So of course that's really good. But so tell us, you said earlier that you have one office and you would open another office. So you said you were licensed in the state of Maryland. Are you licensed in other states? And tell us about your other office as well.
So I'm licensed in Maryland and Virginia. I don't do DC. They have a lot of quirks up there, and I just don't feel like I would give the client the justice they deserve and what they need. My new-ish, soon-to-be office, once I can function outside of my space again, is right across the bridge in King George in the Bayberry professional complex.
Nice.
So it's really walls and carpet right now, and that's about it. But it is
Super exciting. That's exciting. Good stuff. Good stuff. And so lastly, I was just going to ask you, so you started out with just you and your sister, and now you have several employees, correct?
Yes, I have 3 full-time and 2 part-time. I do part-time too because some people, these ladies are a little bit more mature and they don't want to necessarily work full-time. So it works for both of us that way.
Well, that's wonderful. It's wonderful to have that flexibility. Yeah, for sure. So if you, and when we're doing this series, guys, we're talking about a lot of different things. We're talking a lot about entrepreneurial spirit. We're talking about people who own businesses, maybe people who run businesses, maybe people who run departments, and talking about struggles and things that people go through. And, today was really powerful in that we've talked a lot about, delegating and building relationships and, the changes when you go from doing a job to doing that job and running that business that provides that service. So really a lot of good nuggets today. And so I just wanted to end on the note that, as I said, Michelle's been doing this for, well, she told us almost 10 years, which is great. She's been through some different hurdles. Michelle, tell us what you guys are going through right now with, I haven't talked a lot about the virus because I was trying to make a lot of what we're talking about universal, but it's real in the respect, like particularly in your business where you're on the fence because people are questioning, should you guys be working? Shouldn't you be working? Are you guys busy right now? Do you have a lot of transactions going on? Are a lot of people buying and selling houses?
We are very busy, actually. We still have a good fair amount of stuff coming in as the loan programs shift, as they figure out what's going on. I might look busy at the moment, but that may shift in the next 30 days.
Yeah.
Here's the issue. I might be a little unpopular here for half a second. It doesn't matter what side of this you sit on, whether you're in fear for your life or you're not. You still got to live somewhere. And people who are moving into the area, because job transfers still happen. I think they're probably maybe at a pause at the moment, but you can't live in a hotel forever because a lot of those services have closed. You can't go out to the restaurant for dinner. You can order in, but you have a lot of challenges and stuff. And even if you're refinancing, why should you not take the benefit of that lower rate, which if your family does have like a financial bump, that savings will definitely help you along the way. Mm-hmm. So life still has to progress, whether we think it should or not. As we watch what this stuff does, we'll see where it really fleshes out. Here's the issue. Nobody knows. Nobody has the answer. They don't have the answer to the good or the bad. Sorry, that's my door chime. I apologize. It's in my office. Okay. Since we don't know, there's a lot of speculation that goes on, which affects all of us. And how are we going to allow it to affect us? So when people come to my office for closing, no matter how I feel about it, we have the hand sanitizer and the gloves. And I've certainly done some of my first settlements on the hoods of trucks lately. So I'm just there to make the client comfortable. So when we approach it, I just say, what makes you comfortable? Mm-hmm. And we do what makes them comfortable, as opposed to how I maybe feel about it or any of my staff or anything like that, if that makes sense. So we make sure we clean our conference room in between people. I want them to know that we care about their health and safety. And if you want to do your settlement on the hood of the truck, I'll go out and do the settlement on the hood of the truck.
Awesome. That's great. Gosh, Michelle, this has been so helpful. I mean, the not only talking about the things that, that we're all struggling with right now, but also talking about these different nuances and pieces. I really, like I said earlier, we touched on the fact that people just don't understand being an owner is so different than doing the thing that you loved. And so there's real conversation in that. And it's the first time we've talked about it. And I appreciate you bringing that up.
Sure.
And the delegating is a very important part too, and learning that. And so if you had some advice to give somebody who is just, feels really strongly about, this thing that they think they need to create because it needs to come out into the world, or maybe they want to do something that other people are doing, but they feel like it better and they want to get started. What is your quick and down and dirty? What would you give them quick and easy advice about?
If they wanted to start a business?
Yep.
Okay. I'm just asking because it got kind of catchy there with the internet for a second.
Gotcha.
Okay. I would say you better really like what you do because you're going to do a lot of it. Do not walk into it thinking that you're going to have this free time on your hands because you're not. Anytime somebody is sick or leaves or quits or is asked to quit, for lack of a better way to say that.
That was very politically correct.
I'm not very PC, so I'm trying to behave myself.
That was good.
It's going to be your responsibility to do it. And I'd say to any business owner, if you want success with your employees and for them to work hard for you, you better be willing to do anything you ask them to do. So if you're going to ask them to scrub the company toilet, you better be willing to scrub said company toilet next to them. Yeah. They will appreciate you for it. I feel like I'm a tough person. A pastor friend of mine recently described my personality. I said, so you mean bully? Is that what you mean? Is that code for bully? And he says, yeah. I got a lot of Irish and German in me, so bully is in my DNA. And I'm not really a bully, but I require the same level of work in the job and skin in the game as I do for myself. And I think if your employees and your staff see that you're willing to step in, no matter how big your company is, and that you keep in a connection with even the lowest man, even the guy who sweeps the floors, you will have a loyal staff. Yeah. And I think we have a big problem with loyal staff where we are today.
Yeah, absolutely. Good advice. Good information, Michelle. So if somebody wants to find you after today, how do they find you?
Slaving away at my office. You can call my office at 301-830-8080 or email me, Michelle, with 2 L's at I as in Ida, S as in Sam, title.com. And IS is just short for interstate. I'm lazy. I wouldn't want to type all that out, and I don't expect anybody else to.
Do you have a website?
Yes, it's istitle.com.
Very good. Would you do me a favor and add it in the comments when we're done too on Facebook? So if anybody's watching the video, it's right there underneath for them as well. And guys, as I said before, we're going to, we're recording all of this. So we're going to have a link for you tomorrow. So Michelle will be able to share it on her page. I'll share it again on mine and all of the different channels. That way, anybody who wants to be able to see this information, super valuable, helpful nuggets that Michelle's given us today, particularly at the end, just really wrapping up. If you wanted to do any kind of business, some thoughts that you really needed from somebody who's very successfully jumped into the arena and continues to struggle through the ups and the downs to be really successful, even in midst of the coronavirus and the all of the intentions that people have about that. So, Michelle, I can't thank you enough so much for your time today. I really appreciate you taking the time and stopping and talking to us for a few minutes.
You're welcome.
Guys, thanks so much for tuning in to Entrepreneurial Live Interviews with Connie Fuksa. I'm Connie Fuksa. This has been Michelle Woods, and we really appreciate your time. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great rest of your day.